One thing I'm noticing as I'm kind of in the final stages here, I mean, I still have some things that I'd like to develop, like the inside of this, I feel is sort of bland, um, especially seeing it's kind of in the center. I'd like it to be a bit more detailed. So, working on that, but one thing I am noticing is that my piece kind of lacks a focal point, like an intended place where I want the viewer to look. And I think that that's happening um, for several reasons. And first of all, I think it's because my negative and positive space is all kind of equally dispersed throughout. So your eye does kind of go everywhere. And then I tried to balance out certain colors. Like, for example, this corner I noticed had a lot of warm tones and vivid pinks and oranges and things. So, in order to balance that area out, I incorporated some other, I like made these little loopy things on the side, a pink color, and then I brought the orange throughout the piece. Um, but all of these areas, one, two, three, where the main action is, they're all sort of visually the same weight. So, and I kind of want my focal point to be around here because I kind of look at this section as my main player, because I love the texture in it. It's darker than most other things, but I feel like this thing is so visually distracting that it's kind of taking away from that. So I have some stencils here. I'm not sure which shape I'm going to use yet. I'm kind of leaning towards the circles, because I have circles already going on. I was thinking about putting in some geometric, maybe lines to break up the space. But I don't really want to introduce a new element. I think there's already kind of a lot going on here. So I'm thinking of sticking with circles and maybe running some bigger circles behind the area, where I want the viewer to look, where I want to catch the viewer's attention a little bit more and keep it there. So I'm thinking about maybe doing that just to create a sense of a focal point, like the place where I ultimately want the viewer to look and hold their gaze for an extended period of time. So I'm going to work on that. Okay, so that's what I came up with for the circles. And I'm just going to have them like run behind the design back there. I feel that to have any kind of impact, they kind of have to be a solid color, to really catch the eye. And now, so the next question, the next step in this problem solving is what color? I was originally thinking orange to kind of match my other orange circles, but now I don't know. I don't want it to be too orange in that one area. So that's my next order of business, is deciding out of what color to make them. I don't want to really do multicolored either because I think that could get kind of hectic. So I really have to decide on a color. And if I play my cards right, I do think that this is something that could really help to bring my piece together visually. I like the movement of it. I like that it runs behind things, which means it's going to create a sense of depth. So now I just got to pick my color wisely and go from there. Okay, so I think I'm done. As you can see, I worked on it quite a bit and made a lot of changes. So a lot of you actually have had given me feedback on the colors that I should do for my circles, and a lot of people said yellow, some people said pink. So just I'm more of a yellow kind of a girl than a pink kind of a girl, so I just went with yellow, just a personal preference for these circles in the back. And I chose more of like a neutrally yellow, almost like a golden color for those, which I think was effective. And I do think that it brings your eye to this area a little bit more. Once I had done that, though, I still didn't feel satisfied. I didn't feel like it looked complete. So I ended up making sort of like a shadowy edge, almost like a vignette style. If you guys know that filter you can put on Instagram called Vignette, where it makes all the corners kind of in shadow. And then once I did that, I realized that I had created almost like a spotlight on my focal point, which is good, right? That's where you would want your spotlight to be if there's going to be one. And so I think that adding the shadows to the edges really did a lot. It made it feel a little bit more finished. I liked it as a solution as well because I felt like this upper right-hand corner felt a little neglected, but I didn't necessarily want to add more shapes there because I really wanted to keep my focal point in this area. So I feel like adding that shadow in through here helped to just add a little bit more to the space without having to add a bunch more stuff and busy up the artwork. So then once I started thinking about this as kind of a spotlight, I decided to go in and add almost like drop shadows, I guess you would call them. Very faint, nothing, I didn't want to do anything too distracting, but I put shadows underneath all through here. I put shadows underneath this on top of the yellow circles, which helped to push these darker pieces forward even more by setting a shadow under them. And I just followed through to the best of my ability. I kind of had to make it up and visualize what that would look like. Then I just kind of followed through and added more shadows underneath the pieces, which also gave the piece as a whole a little bit more of a sense of depth. So I thought that was effective. I used the same color for my drop shadows as I used for the shadowing around the edges of my paper. And to do that, I just mixed up like a really neutral gray watercolor, and I just lightly put a wash around the edges, fading it into white as it got to the middle. And then just to even it out a little bit, I have this gray colored pencil, and I just did a little bit of shading over that as well. And I like the way that unified the piece. I felt like it brought it all together. It made the white space feel a little bit more finished. I did have some like little splatters and smudges and stuff in my white space, and once I went over it with this shadowy business, it kind of covered those little imperfections as well. So I think that was effective. And then just going through some of the finishing touches that I added in here to make it feel like a really finished piece. Like I said, the shadows. I even hit up some areas with a gel pen, like the highlights on this. I really wanted to make this feel like a dimensional thing, so I added some shadow, and then I enhanced the highlights with a gel pen. And I also added some gel pen areas to even like right on top of the magazine, just to set this forward even more. Same thing in these guys. A few little gel pen highlights on here. So if you have a gel pen, that's a great tool. A white colored pencil will probably get you close if you want to make it look like there's highlights on things. What else? I notice how that there are no raw number 2 pencil lines showing. Everything has, I've gone over every pencil line with colored pencil. And for the most part, I just chose a darker version of whatever color was there. So for this pale green, I got like a slightly darker green colored pencil and outlined that area. For the yellows, I got a slightly darker yellow or orange or brown even. And I went over those, the original pencil lines that were there, because anytime you have raw pencil lines showing, it ends up looking a bit unfinished, like you forgot to go over those with colored pencil or paint. I did a lot of shading, and you could see some of that being done in the video previously, but I did a lot of shading and things with colored pencil. So the colored pencil just adds a lot of refinement to the piece. It really helps to bring it together. It makes it look neat and clean, especially for those of you who might not have a ton of control with the watercolor itself. Using the colored pencil is a chance to go back and neaten things up. So yeah, I'm done with this, and I think what I'm going to do now is go set it under some books, because the edges got a little bit curly when I went and put that the shadow around the side. So I'm going to go put it under some books to flatten it. And then I'm going to get ready to photograph it, which will be demonstrated in the next video.